Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have Pastor Paul Begley with us again. I mean, this guy is just awesome. I love listening to him, and he's going to spend some time with us here today. He's a very busy person, so we're going to take advantage of this opportunity. Pastor Begley, thank you so much for coming on the show. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great. Are you serious? Just keep it going,
Love it.
Great to be here, Rex. Great to be here.
Now, I saw a few weeks ago, there was a video that you did on your YouTube channel, which, by the way, is awesome. You've got tons of videos on there. You hit on some great topics, current event stuff that's really pertaining towards the events at that specific time. And if you go through the timeline, the information you brought out 4 years ago is pertinent to today as well. So, I mean, it's fantastic. So you had a visit from some very nice folks that have a specific position with the government, the National Security Agency, and no such agency. And I was wondering if you could share that with us and talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. I'm trying to think the first encounter, the first visit. I want to believe it was in June. I know the second one was in early August, late July. I can't remember the exact date, but it was right around the beginning of August. But they have visited us twice, and the NSA, and it was a very, very interesting discussion for sure.
So they just out of the blue, they're knocking on your. What was it like when they came to your door and said, "Hey, we're with the NSA"? How did they do it?
They actually did it by text.
They sent you a text?
Sent a text
on your phone.
On the phone, and said we'd like to meet with you.
Wow.
And so, we agreed to a certain location, a restaurant. I wanted to make sure we was in a public location. And so
sure.
They said, fine. And we met at a certain restaurant. And there was two people, and they came in, sat down, and we had a very good conversation. The man was the actual agent. The woman was his wife. And she kept going out to the car because they had some dogs. And so, but he's the one that really met with us. And the first encounter was kind of scary because he really told us why he come to see us. There was a video I did where I was talking about citizen containment, Rex, where there's walls that are being built now in the cities. These walls can be put up very quickly and cordon off sections of cities in case of civil unrest, martial law. And so certain sections of cities are considered more dangerous to contain. So they have walls, especially San Francisco. They have walls that are ready, and that's where I got this information. So I'm just sharing it. Okay, I'm just sharing this and saying, hey guys, there's citizen containment walls. No, this is one of the things they will do if things gets out of control. And he said that when he went to work the next day, that my face was on the screen. It was on all the screens. Said, who is this guy and how does he know about the citizen containment walls? And so they've been monitoring me ever since. So he came. We had a very, very intense conversation because he started to tell me about all the different ways they can kill me. Okay? So part of this, I believe, was shock value. The first meeting, what I believe, was to send a clear message that we don't, you're getting into areas we don't want you to get into. So we're listening. We got you. You're on a list. And they told me there's a list of 20 alternative media personalities. They only gave me the name of 4 of us. But there was 20, and the 4 were myself, Michael Savage, BP Earthwatch, and Sean Hannity. Now, Sean Hannity, I don't see how you consider. I mean, he's on Fox News. Everybody in the world knows him. But and then I thought, well, maybe they're just giving me a variety. Michael Savage is a very powerful, very popular radio personality, and guess what? Michael Savage got pulled off the air just before the one debate. They just pulled him off 400 radio stations. They finally let him back on. We're hearing rumors that Hannity's going to be fired at Fox News, especially if Clinton wins the election. He's gone. So I don't know, and I've been visited by the NSA twice. So I don't know. I think there's several people that are being watched, and I think it's more than 20. I think they got a list of 20. But Rex, you and everyone that's covering some of the sensitive things as it relates to the time we're living in, they're watching us.
Well, geez, that's frightening, especially when they tell you of ways that you could be killed. And I mean, certainly that would get the hair stand up on the back of my neck. Could you share some of that with us, or is that too personal?
No. I mean, and my wife is sitting there, and I really believe that part of it was shock value. They wanted to get my reaction, to get her reaction, and her reaction was awesome. Before I could speak back, and he told me that, like, look, we'll be in your house before you know it. There's no use you having a handgun because we'll just take it from you. It's not a problem. We'll have you zipped up, packed up, and out of there in less than a minute. We'll be in your house. You won't even know how we got in. We know everything, And so basically, you need to understand that you do not need to go in some of these areas of security. And they were upset about the civilian containment. So they talked about this. And my wife said, okay. And I think he really wanted her to give a reaction of freaking out. And she said, well, you know what? We've had so many death threats. So what? I mean, this is you're just telling us something. So if you think we're going to stop what we're doing, you're wasting your breath. You got anything else to say? It was one of those. She came back at him with such a strong response that I didn't even have to say anything. It's like, okay, so if you're trying to scare her, that's not working. So I'm not afraid either. Okay, so he went at a different approach after that.
And do you feel like they would attempt to take your life if it got to a point where you're hitting on topics that they just didn't want you to?
Well, let's put it this way. I had a notebook to take notes. He took the notebook away from me, took my ink pen, and wrote down 9 different things that could happen to me that would send me a message it was them. One of those 9 was you'd have an unexplained car accident. Okay? So after the meeting, it was about 6 or 8 weeks later, I was in an unexplained car accident. Actually, a man drove 60 miles an hour. He came through a red light, cut across 3 lanes of traffic, and hit me in the T-boned me into my rear, right in my back tire, breaking the tire off the car. Okay, I mean, this was a hard hit. Now, my car was an Enclave, a Buick Enclave. They're pretty well. They're a good car to take a hit. Okay, But I mean, there was 5 cameras. There were witnesses. The witnesses came to when the police were there. They said, "Look, this guy cut across the lanes to get him."
I mean, calling you right now.
Yeah, that's probably the NSA. And they cut across lanes, Rex, to hit me. He said, "No, I was just trying to avoid hitting other cars, and I was just trying to miss." But he said, "I didn't even see the red light." They wrote it all up. He admitted he hit me. It was obviously his fault. He gives a name, an insurance, a policy, the phone number, and I'm to call it. When I call, there is no policy. This guy doesn't exist. He doesn't exist. We tracked it down, called the police, we called back to our insurance company. They went tracking it down. They come back and said, look, the guy doesn't exist. Jeez. So my insurance company ends up fixing my car. They had to fix my car. And this gentleman's gone. Now, that was one of the things he told me on the 9, unexplained car accident.
What did he look like? Did he look like a normal Joe? Did he look like a military guy? I mean, could you?
No, he did look like just a normal Joe. He was probably about early 30s.
Okay.
He wore some dark shades, and he kept those on, so I could never get to look him in the eye. But he had an old beater car, crushed it. I mean, he just crushed it. But he wasn't hurt, which was kind of amazing in a way, because that car was just crushed. If anything, I would have thought he would have been hurt. He just walked away, and then they didn't arrest him. They didn't give him a ticket or anything. And so this was one of the 9 things, okay? After this happened, about a week later, the NSA calls again and says, I'd like to meet again. When we had this meeting, when he said, okay. He takes my notebook again, which he still has the 9 things listed, takes the ink pen and marks off one, says there's one of the 9. Now you have 8 more. They want to know, who is your source? Who is your source? And I keep saying my source is the Lord. Okay. I get my information from God. I got my eyes open. I can see what's going on, and the Holy Spirit. And, so I'm sorry if you're looking for I don't have an inside source in the government. Okay. So, he's like, man, they're not going to like that. I'm sorry, I don't have one. So, but he was, I have to say, the second meeting was much more, he was a whole lot more friendlier. He said he's a Christian. I believe he is even. Nice guy. He just trying to do his job. But at the same time, I'm saying, look, I don't have a source in the government.
Do you think they believe you?
Yeah, I think he does. And I think, I think he was trying to give me some heads up here and some warnings and some information to